At dawn, the world is silent. Mist rises from the hills, and a faint bell tolls through the valley. The sound echoes across stone arches and cloister walls, calling men from their sleep to prayer. For centuries, that sound has marked the rhythm of life, the heartbeat of a civilization built not by kings or conquerors, but by monks. And at the center of it all stands one man, Saint Benedict of Nursia, the man whose quiet rule of life helped shape the spiritual and cultural soul of the Western world. Benedict was born around the year 480 in the mountains of Umbria, just as the Roman Empire was collapsing into chaos. The roads that once carried legions and laws now carried thieves and despair. Cities crumbled, libraries burned, and the light of learning dimmed. It was the beginning of what history calls the Dark Ages. But in that darkness, a new kind of light was about to be kindled. It would not blaze like a sword, but flicker like a candle, patient, steady, eternal. Benedict came from a noble family and was sent to study in Rome, the heart of civilization. But what he found there was not wisdom, only decadence. The empire that once ruled the world now rotted from within. Corruption, lust, and ambition poisoned every corner. Young Benedict, still in his teens, saw how the pursuit of power had hollowed out the human soul. Disillusioned and restless, he fled the city. He wanted not to rule, but to be ruled, not by empire, but by God. He wandered into the mountains, to a place called Subiaco. There, in a cave above a narrow river gorge, he began to live as a hermit. He ate little, spoke less, and prayed constantly. The world had gone mad. He sought sanity in silence. He was barely 20 years old. For 3 years, he lived hidden from the world, feeding on bread brought to him by a local monk named Romanus. The people around began to notice something extraordinary, a peace that seemed to radiate from the young hermit. Word spread. Men came to see him, and what they found was not an ascetic fanatic, but a man who had found balance. But even peace provokes envy. When Benedict agreed to lead a nearby monastery, the monks soon rebelled against his strict discipline. Legend says they tried to poison him. He blessed the cup, and it shattered. Quietly, he left them. He would not fight. Instead, he returned to the wilderness, and there, like a seed hidden in the earth, his vision took root. In time, disciples gathered around him, men hungry for purpose in a world that had lost its soul. They built 12 small monasteries around Subiaco, each with 12 monks and an abbot. Their life was simple: prayer, work, study, and silence. They followed Benedict's rhythm of living, a rhythm that mirrored the order of the universe. But even this peace was not to last. A jealous priest stirred trouble and forced Benedict to leave again. So he climbed higher into the hills to a place called Monte Cassino. There, on the ruins of an old pagan temple, he built a new foundation, not of marble and gold, but of humility and faith. From that mountain, he wrote what would become one of the most influential documents in history, the Rule of Saint Benedict. It was not a rule of tyranny or punishment, but of order and love, a way of life that united discipline with compassion. It began with one word: listen. Listen carefully, my son, to the Master's instructions, and attend to them with the ear of your heart. In that single sentence lay the essence of his wisdom. That transformation begins not with speaking, but with listening to God, to others, to the still voice within. The rule was practical, not mystical. It arranged every hour of the day into a rhythm of prayer and work, ora et labora. 7 times a day, the monks prayed the divine office, before dawn, at sunrise, at noon, at sunset, and deep into the night. Between prayers, they worked, tilling fields, copying manuscripts, brewing beer, tending the sick, teaching the poor. Every action, no matter how small, was an act of worship. Work was not a burden, but a continuation of prayer. Time itself became sacred. Each monastery was a small world of balance, self-sufficient, peaceful, and united by love. In an age of chaos, these communities became islands of stability. When war swept through kingdoms, the monks preserved not only faith, but knowledge. They copied the scriptures, the classics of Greece and Rome, and the discoveries of science. In candlelit scriptoriums, they kept civilization alive one page at a time. The world outside raged and fell, but within the monastery walls, the light never went out. Benedict's genius was not invention, but integration. He took the wisdom of the desert hermits and gave it structure, turning wild holiness into enduring culture. He understood something timeless, that true freedom comes through discipline and true peace through order. His monks did not withdraw from the world to escape it, but to renew it. From their silence, civilization was reborn. Yet Benedict himself lived simply, almost invisibly. He did not seek fame, only fidelity. Miracles surrounded him, healings, prophecies, visions, but he remained humble. Once, when a king asked for his blessing, Benedict wept and warned him that his reign would soon end in blood. It did. Another time, when a monk disobeyed his command, a boy fell into a lake and drowned. Benedict prayed, and the boy returned to life. But even in miracles, his message was the same. Obedience is the language of love. His wisdom was not abstract. The rule insisted that every monk be treated as Christ himself, that leaders be servants, and that guests, even strangers, be welcomed as if they were Christ. It was a theology of humanity. In an age of brutality, Benedict taught gentleness. In a world of division, he taught unity. His monastery became a model for countless others, spreading across Europe like lanterns in the night. And in those lanterns, the seeds of civilization took root again, not through conquest, but through contemplation. Fields were cultivated, towns grew around monasteries, schools and hospitals emerged. The monks became farmers, builders, teachers, healers. The rhythm of ora et labora rebuilt the rhythm of society. Historians would later say, Western civilization was born in monasteries. But for Benedict, all of this began with a single soul seeking peace. Near the end of his life, he sensed his death approaching. He asked his monks to carry him into the chapel. There, he received communion, raised his hands toward heaven, and whispered his final prayer. As he stood, supported by his brothers, his spirit slipped quietly into eternity. He died as he had lived, in prayer, at peace, between heaven and earth. His body was laid to rest beside his sister, Saint Scholastica, who had shared his vision and heart. Together, they became twin flames of contemplation, brother and sister of the Spirit, reminding the world that love is the true foundation of order. Centuries passed, empires rose and fell again. But the rhythm Benedict began never stopped. The bells of Monte Cassino still ring at dawn, echoing across the valleys of Italy, across the centuries, across the hearts of all who seek meaning in the noise of modern life. His legacy is not just in the church, but in every mind that values balance, every culture that cherishes learning, every heart that finds God in the ordinary. Saint Benedict's gift was not to invent faith, but to organize it, to give chaos a pattern, to give wandering souls a home. He understood that civilization begins where worship and work meet, where the divine and human embrace in the daily rhythm of love. His rule built not walls, but a way that continues to guide souls through the ruins of every age. And perhaps that is why, in a world that once again trembles between order and decay, his voice still speaks. Let peace be your way of life. Let humility be your strength. Listen with the ear of your heart. Because sometimes, to rebuild the world, you don't need to shout. You need to pray, to work, and to let the silence do the building.